Good morning, students. Our next chapter of chemistry, that is metals and non-metals. So, we are starting that chapter. But before starting, we will recall the definition of elements. As you know, an element is a pure substance that cannot be split into or broken into any other substance. As you know, every element it is made up of its own type of atoms. Besides that, in class 9th, we have studied that elements are classified into metals, non-metals and metalloids on the basis of their properties. So, in this chapter, we will talk about the physical and chemical properties of metals, non-metals and metalloids. Beside that, we will discuss why some elements are categorized as metals or non-metals and how their properties are related to the uses of these elements. So, let us start the chapter. First of all, we will discuss the physical properties of metals. The chapter is in your NCERT book on page number 37. So, we are starting the physical properties of metals. And for physical properties, there are given some of the activities. So, first of all, I will discuss the activity 3.1 that is given on page number 37. It is given in the activity that if we take samples of iron, copper, aluminium and magnesium and we see their appearance, mean how they appear when we see them, we observe that they have a shining surface, and the shining property of metals is called as metallic luster. In this case, if a freshly cut and uncorroded surface of a metal is seen, we see that it is lustrous or it has a shine of its own. As we see at homes also, silver, gold and copper and iron, they have their own shine. Like silver has a grey or silvery luster, gold has a shining yellow luster and copper has brown. So, first property of metals is that they are lustrous. Now, activity 3.2. In this activity, it is given if we take the small pieces of iron, copper, aluminium and magnesium and try to cut them with a sharp knife, we observe that these metals cannot be cut easily with a knife. But if we take piece of sodium and potassium, these sodium and potassium should be handled with care, and if we try to cut these sodium and potassium with knife, we can easily cut them. So, there are some of the metals which can be cut with knife and some are hard. So, metals are generally hard and their hardness varies from metals to metals. So, hardness of this copper, iron, aluminium and magnesium is there, but this sodium and potassium, these are soft metals. On page number 38, activity third activity, activity 3.3 is there. Now, in this activity, while we take the pieces of iron, zinc, lead and copper and we beat them with or strike them with hammer, then we observe then these iron, zinc, copper etc. can be beaten into thin sheets. And the property of metals to be beaten into thin sheets or converted into thin sheets after beating is called as malleability. So, the metals like this zinc, lead and copper and iron can be hammered and can be converted into thin sheets. So, this property of metals by which it can be beaten into thin sheets is called as malleability. Next property, next activity, that is activity 3.4. If we take metals like iron, copper, aluminium, lead etc. and beside that, if we try to find out which of these are also available in the form of wires. So, the metals like copper, iron, aluminium etc. can be drawn into wires, and the property of metals to be drawn into wires is called as ductility. So, the examples given above are ductile, mean they can be drawn into wires. For example, copper wires that are used in electric circuits, the copper is ductile, because copper is ductile. So, it can be stretched or converted into wires. In the similar way, gold and silver etc. are also ductile. A piece of 5 gram of gold can be drawn into 10 kilometer long thin wire. So, gold is the most ductile metal. Now, in activity 3.5, it is given that if we take aluminium or copper wire and clamp its one end on a stand and then fix a pin to the its one end using wax, and when we heat the wire with a candle near the place where it is clamped, we will observe that the wax fixed at the free end of the strip melt and the pin fall down, but the aluminium strip does not melt. This activity proves that aluminium conduct heat, and thus metals are good conductor of heat. Beside that, it is also proved by the activity that metals have high melting point. In the activity we see that wax has melted first, but the wire of aluminium, that is not melted. So, it has a higher melting point than the wax, so it does not melt. Due to this property of metals, kitchen utensils are made of metals like copper and alloys of other metals etc. like. So, these metals can conduct heat. So, kitchen utensils are made up of metals. So, question may arise, how do metals conduct heat? When a portion of an object made of metal is heated, its atoms gain energy then the energized atoms vibrate vigorously and transfer the energy to other adjacent atoms. In this way, the entire object and other things in its contact also become hot. This shows that metals conduct heat. So, due to this property, property of metals, utensils are made of metals. Now, there is one more activity given on page number 39, that is activity 3.6. Look at the figure 3.2. You will see that there is a current carrying wires are attached, or the electric circuit is shown. So, to prove that the metals conduct electric current, we can make the circuit like that, and when we add or the circuit complete the circuit by using these metals like gold, copper, platinum, etc., we see they are conducting the electric circuit, they are conducting the electric current by we can observe that by the bulb, glowing of bulb. So, some of the metals conduct electricity also, and silver and copper are the best conductors of electric current. Now, last property of metals is given, that is related to sonority of metals. Sonority mean the property of metals to produce sound on striking with a hard surface. This property of metals is called as sonority. So, some metals like copper, silver, gold, aluminium, etc., give musical sounds when they are struck by themselves or by any other object. So, property of metals to produce sound on striking with hard surface is called sonority, and this is also the property of metals, mean metals are sonorous. In the similar way, now you can guess that why school bells are made of metals. So, school bells are also made of metals due to the property of sonority, when they produce sound, that is why school bells are made up of metals. So, these all are the physical properties of metals. That is all for today. Thank you.